So, no. What is, okay, hang on, I gotta find number 2, Lucci. 2, 3.
You can count.
So there's no picture.
And we dressed nice too,
I
Renee.
know.
Damn.
What?
And we dressed nice today.
Yeah. Who? We did?
All of us.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And with no picture.
oh,
No picture.
Of course, you can't see who's who. That camera.
I didn't know they, do they broadcast it?
Thank you, Mr. Dutch.
Oh, yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah. They used to have it on at 10 o'clock the next morning.
All right, I better actually look at what's going on here.
Well, I don't have TV, so.
I wish I could. Three of them, they're all running at the same time. Yeah. That's a waste of time. I go around turning them on, and they go in and clean.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead anyway with the blue screen.
Okay, we got a quorum, huh? Okay, I bring this meeting to order. The Evergreen Cemetery Committee regular meeting, September the 7th, 2017, at 5:30 p.m. at City Hall, 118 Arizona Street, Bisbee, Arizona. Okay, Todd Conklin,
Here.
Renee Harper,
Here.
Luci Giacomino is present, Snooty,
Here.
Council Liaison, Mr. Dunn, and Andy Heredic, City Liaison. And no Terry tonight, okay. The following items to be discussed, considered, and/or decided upon during this meeting. Approval of the minutes for meeting held on June 7, 2017. Has everybody read their minutes? Well,
I make a motion we approve the minutes of June 7th, 2017 Cemetery Committee meeting.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, unanimously. Okay, old business. Discussion and possible approval of reinstalling the northwest fence at cemetery. Fences are at the garage. All right, Mr. Heredic.
Okay. I won't be down at the cemetery probably till after the first of the year.
The first of the year?
I have a city that needs to be repaired. I'm paving roads. I've got drainage to clear out.
Okay.
I've got a 4-man crew. I'll be out first of the year. I got to be back here to start paving in October. So you're gonna have to give me till the first of the year.
I
Can we
would mark
clone
it.
you? Can we put that on next?
No, I'm retiring. There's no cloning. No, I am really, right now we are just, listen, I'm trying to keep the grass mowed at this point. That's my biggest and single concern is just keep
That
the
is
grass.
a lot.
And if it rains tomorrow, I'm going to just be right back where I started. But I will honestly not get there for months. I just don't have the crews to get there at this point. I'm remodeling here. I've just got,
Well, if you
Can-
start mowing, would you please mow some of the older graves so that people can get to them? I have about 100 people there that I cannot get to. I refuse to walk through that grass for snakes.
well, in fact, the reason we're not mowing now is because I have to buy snake guards. We have found a 10-footer last week.
You have what?
We found a 10-footer last week. I've had to buy snake guards for the
Diamondback?
crew. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of 5.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that thing was stretched out. He was wiggled out like a bad pencil line from one end of the side of the road to the other, and I thought it was something else, and I went, "Whoa." So I've had to buy snake guards for the
No,
guys.
that's why I won't go in there.
Yeah, so
And
they'll
I've
be-
got- I can't put flowers on any
Yeah.
of the relatives, the 100 that I've got down there.
They'll be in a couple of weeks. The snake guards will be in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Can you revisit this first of the year? And kind of move us up?
Well, I
list?
suggest, this is what Lucci kind of does, is she'll keep this on here until it's done, and we'll talk about it till I get it done. That's,
Okay.
we don't take anything off until we resolved it.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah.
how we remind ourselves, I still got to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we're into January, huh?
On those fences, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, item number 2, in old business, discussion and possible approval to install a drip system at the cemetery to water trees.
So the city this year, the city council went from one person in parks, and this year we actually have an additional full-time person who started 2 weeks ago and a part-time person coming on. So as soon as I get that staff up and trained, we'll talk about getting that drip system installed. I hired a retired greens superintendent from Green Valley Country Club. That is our new parks person, so he's
Familiar with irrigation.
He's an agronomist, he's an irrigation specialist.
I love it.
I do too. And he's got a bit of a handicap because he has an artificial leg, so he has a little bit of a walking problem, but he's strengthening up and it's coming along.
Yeah, but his knowledge is what the key is.
That's exactly right. So he
Okay.
understands all this
Okay.
stuff. So I can tell you that I'm happily, that's who has to help install this. But
That's
Tom
great.
Coble just couldn't do it. So I'm hoping sooner than later I can work on that drip system.
Okay, it'll be back again.
Yep.
All right, new business. Discussion and possible approval to ensure people have permits to have any type of event at the cemetery. Anybody have any comments on that?
Do we have a form for that, Andy?
It'd be a parks permit, but the difference is it's not a park. It is an open space that can be used at will.
Why?
Because it's unlike, well, even a park can be used at will. This is why we do a parks permit. We do a parks permit to reserve a space for you. You don't necessarily have to come to me and get a permit for anything you do in a park, but if you want to reserve a space and you want things cleaned up and you want it to be ready for you that day, you come in and you get a permit. If you decide you want to have that same family reunion, you didn't want to get a permit, and somebody else had a permit for that park, I would come up to that park and say, look, you guys, they have a permit, they get to use the park. You didn't pull a permit. They have the first use of the park. But they didn't have to pull a permit for that park. They have a right. It is a public space. You have a right to meet.
The cemetery is not a public space.
It is the
No, it is
most
not.
public space in the city because everybody in the city goes there for one reason or the other.
Did
It
you
is
give me a deed for,
The city attorney answered this question for us. We can have him answer it again. And I'm not here to argue with
Well,
any of you, but the city
I'll
attorney
go
made it
talk to
very
another
clear
attorney.
that it is a public space. And I'm not in a position to take it away from anybody. I can't do that. And I can't deny anybody access to the cemetery while that gate is open. I can't. It's against the law for me to do that as a civil servant. So what I encourage people to do, quite frankly, is will you please get a permit when you go to the cemetery so we can be ready for you. We've been through this. The school, give me a permit so I know Day of the Dead's coming and I'll have everything
they
ready
have
for you.
always gotten a permit for Day of the Dead because they were required to before.
Yeah.
When did it change?
I don't think they've actually got one for 2 years. They've told us they were coming, but they haven't actually pulled a permit. I wished on the holidays, the federal holidays, we could get the local clubs to pull a permit to let us know they were coming. They don't have to have a permit. They can go up and do that without a permit. I'm not telling you I agree with it or like it, but that was the rule that came down from the city attorney. It's like a public park. You can make church at a public park.
Fine, I will consult another attorney because I do not believe that is true.
Okay.
I did not get a deed. I got a receipt. You sold me 6 foot down. I do not own 30 feet.
That's correct. It's
So
not
it is
privately
not.
owned. It is public.
No, it's not, Andy. The ground itself, the roads are not private. They are.
All you
they're
buy at
public.
the cemetery is the right to be buried at the cemetery. You buy the right to be there, but you don't own the property. It is still public property. You're right, we didn't send a deed because you don't own anything at the cemetery. You just own the right to be there. But that is federal law. That is not me making a statement or
We'll
anything.
check on
That's,
that
but
one,
that's
Andy.
something else. That's a bigger thing.
We'll check on that.
Well, so as of now, like when we have the May Day, Memorial Day, that we go through, like always, through the committee and have the program. And then you guys set up the bleachers and the PA system and help with the arrangements.
Correct. And I take it through the committee, and because that's what I think I should do. I wished the other organizations would pull a permit, but they won't pull a permit, and the truth is, I can't throw them out because they have a right to be there without a permit.
That's fine. And they do Veterans Day.
They do, without a permit.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah. I wish they'd pull a permit so I would be ready. I mean, in other words, what a permit gets you is the ground swept, the bleachers, fresh flag, whatever it is you needed, you
And
asked.
clean up afterwards.
And clean up afterwards, right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2, discussion and possible approval for printing more of the 11 by 17 cemetery brochures and possibly charging a small fee for these brochures at the visitor center.
You want to do that one?
Well, the visitor center's been out of brochure, but in an investigation we found that there were 500 printed, 1,500 were paid for, so there was 1,000 more being printed.
Good.
But still, it's my observation, as I indicated earlier, this brochure is kind of a Cadillac brochure. It's very, very attractive. And I think people grab it and sometimes are not exactly sure, you know, I think they read history map and walking guide and maybe assume it's of Old Bisbee rather than the cemetery. And so my thought was, do we want to consider, as is true for national parks, Forest Service and so forth, if you have a trail guide, there's a there's a slot where you can drop 50 cents for the brochure.
Charge, yeah.
And certainly
So
that
you're
would,
saying
would,
donation then.
right, and certainly, particularly at the visitor center and the downtown one in particular, that would prevent people from just grabbing one of everything and putting it in a plastic bag, or we don't have plastic bags, a bag, and carrying it out. So anyway, that was,
What was the cost on a brochure again? I remember you told me the number.
I don't remember.
It's a couple bucks, wasn't it?
well, I think seemed like it's 1,500, must be it might be almost $1 a piece then or
Yeah.
something.
Just under
How different are they from the ones we had before?
Oh, like
Oh.
night and day.
Right.
Well, then we need to clear the ones out of the basement because you got a bukus of boxes of those
We got to
things
put those
down
on the
there.
agenda.
Well, all the ones before we just printed off on our coffee machines on the paper.
Right.
And we
Right.
got rid of those, we would just.
Require payment.
Well, recycle the paper then, because you got a whole room full of them.
I don't have any
Possible
answer.
approval of.
You did, what'd you
No,
do
no,
with
no,
them?
for payment,
Nothing down.
for like a donation. Well, we have to,
Possibly charging a small fee.
oh, okay, I didn't catch that part. Okay, yeah.
But anyway, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily cover all the costs, but I was thinking, 50 cents or something like that, and just encourage that, and have the visitor center have a display specifically for that, and a coin drop or whatever. And it could also, we didn't plan that into the kiosk, but likewise, we might make an adjustment there as well.
That'd be the time to do the
Right.
application on that.
Right.
That's a lot of money to have those printed. Perhaps we could get quotes from other printing companies?
Well,
Because that's a lot of money for,
No.
yeah, well, this is definitely an expensive brochure that we elected to do, and it's wonderful. But certainly, when we run out of those, then we certainly have the dilemma of, there's not going to be any more grant money.
Yeah.
So you're going to be buying that out of city budget. So
Yeah, and that would be good for, like Renee says, put it out to bid
right,
at that time when we run out.
right.
And then
Yeah.
the funds that were collected as donation, that's what it'd be technically. What would that go towards?
Right.
Fund for the next order of
Well, that's what I'm proposing. Again, I'm not, staff needs to respond to that in terms of whether we can do that. I certainly,
so why it'd be a problem?
but certainly, again, Park Service does it now. I mean, out in the middle of nowhere, if you pick up a trail guide, there's a slot there to put your 50 cents in or whatever it is. And so, anyway, I just wanted to update because people were complaining that we're out of brochures. But what we're out of the first 500.
Now, will those brochures fit the kiosk that we're going to get at the cemetery?
I'm sure.
I
Yeah, that's
hope so. I mean,
the
they had that.
I know I'm getting off topic a little bit here, but
Yes, it'll fit. We gave him the brochure for his slot size.
you talked to Michael today, right?
I emailed him.
So we could come with modifications to put a change. He would do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's make sure he doesn't have it already. We gave him the brochure. when he designed it.
Now would be the time
Yeah,
to
we
do
gave
it.
him the brochure, so let's make sure, but when you look at the way he's designed it in the front, what he's done is he's left the entire length of the kiosk you lift up a lid and it's an open trough, and then you slide your brochure.
I'm talking about to collect donations.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out where we put that cigar case.
But the problem with that is you start dealing with the crime element.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually less interested, less concerned about the cemetery because someone obviously wants to be there. I mean, they're there to tour the cemetery. I'm concerned that at the visitor center, people are grabbing everything,
Yeah.
all the brochures, and are not necessarily, had not decided to go to the cemetery.
The one thing that Doug said to me that was most compelling about this, that on the top of the brochure it says, the first thing you really see is history map and walking guide. And Doug thinks that people are pulling these out not thinking that it's for...
For the 1,000, for the Bisbee 1000 or
They don't see
whatever.
Evergreen, they just see that as, oh, that's something on there. Oh, look, it's a history map and walking guide of Bisbee. Oh.
On the next
So
one,
they
we'll have to
just
change the
start pulling
logo.
it out of the kiosk at random. That's what, and then Doug is thinking, and I think he's right, we watch people go there and they just pull every pretty...
Well, that's why we need them down at the
Or
cemetery.
where those are sitting at there, what we could do is we could have just even a sign printed out that just says, you know, Evergreen Cemetery brochure, instead of them just going down the line. They'll actually know that that's what it is.
Right.
That'd
That would be
Put a
good
tag
too.
on it.
So still, I think
And
charging
use
for it is going to cause people, no matter how little it is, cause them to think. So,
That's
Yeah.
true.
but at the cemetery, I'm not concerned because people are there because they want to tour the cemetery, and it should be readily available to them. And again, having a coin box would invite theft. So,
Well, the good news though, that the cemetery, as long as Lucci's and her husband are closing and locking it up, I'm not gonna jump one more thing on collecting money, but
Yeah.
but theft, because of the consistency of closing and opening that cemetery, I'm not saying we're not having problems, but we're not having the kind of problems we had. Because people know it's gonna be open and closed. I mean, once you do anything like that on a regular basis, it changes a lot of bad habits.
I think, but if you wanted to make a modification to that kiosk, now would be the time to do it, would be tonight. Because then I could call Mike, or you could call Mike and just say, hey, let's throw a little slot, you know.
So 50 cents is what you suggested then?
well, that's easy. Everybody's has easy change, you know. You can go as far as $1, but
And then some people, and then, you know, assuming, I don't have to say they just drop $1 in there.
What you're making is a donation bucket, because you can't charge unless you go through main and cancel. So you're just asking for a
Donation.
Well,
And
that's
then-
good.
And then you have to have 2 quarters or, you know,
No 50 cents?
no pennies and things like that.
Yeah.
The other thing you could consider as a committee, and I'm going to be doing this with the recycling brochure, I'm looking into it, is selling advertising on the brochure to help with printing costs.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But as a committee, you may be able to take the back page.
What is that? I don't know.
I don't know, I'd have to think about that.
That's something for you to think about, because it would help with the expense, and you're asking for money anyway. So what's more convenient or inconvenient? To ask somebody that, I mean, because the deal
Ace
is...
Hardware or something you're saying?
Right, I mean, once you put it in there and you ask for money, people might go, oh, don't take that one, it's 10 cents. Get the free ones. Because there'll only be one. In the card racks, I don't know that Jen can actually charge in the card racks at the visitor center. It may have to go in its own place, because the card racks are sponsored by the Arizona Office of Tourism, and they are intended to be free. So this couldn't go in the traditional card racks where it currently is if we charged. It would have to go someplace different, have to be something that you set up a system to collect money for. If you could work out a way to get advertising on it, that might...
But advertising be when we print again. Right now, we're
Correct,
trying to
right.
gain the revenue on
Right.
the 1,000 we still have.
But
It's an
anyway,
option.
It's an option.
So where does that leave us here?
Well, we're gonna get the 1,000 that we need printed.
No, as far as like, what's going to be the conclusion to this? Are we going to actually ask for donations at the cemetery? Are we going to do it there? Are we going to have to come up with a new stand for the...
So the first
brochures?
500 went out the door in 3 months? And
Not bad.
but we'd have given away, we probably could have given away 1,000 by now in the first 3 months if we had them. So the kiosk won't go up for another 2 or 3 months. So if you're not going to charge at the kiosk, there's no reason to make a change at the kiosk at all, if we're not going to charge there. Doug is
No,
kind of
as long as they're there for a reason.
And that is a valid point. So the place where we need to charge really for right now would be the visitor center, but we have to ask Jen if she will set up a table for us to put these so we can collect money at
So
the
it'd have to
visitor
be
center.
on next month's agenda.
Yeah.
No, we can talk to Jen sooner, Todd.
Well, isn't Jen part of the city?
That's why I said we can talk to Jen sooner. I can talk to her tomorrow. But remember, we're asking her to, she doesn't have to say yes to us.
She'll
We're just
say
saying,
yes.
Jen,
I don't see
you
She's
know,
part of us.
I don't see why
she's
she'd
part of us,
say
but
no.
now we're giving her the burden of saying, Jen, why don't we collecting the money, but I need you to watch it. It has to be easy for her. And let's ask her and see what she says. I can't make her do it. I won't make her do it. But let me ask her. I don't think she'll say no, but I have to ask. And then we would only start considering charging for these at the visitor center. But currently we had pretty good exposure at the visitor center because we were with all the other card racks. We are now, if we charge, we're coming off of the card racks. We won't be in the area where they do the free cards. We will have to pull it out of that area and put it someplace else. So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying we won't give us away as many. I'm not saying anybody's going to pay. They may take them anyway without paying. I don't know what they'll do.
Yeah, I think selling advertising is a smart idea.
Well,
Because you
it's,
have the money. I mean, people can donate or not, but you have that money that you charge for people to advertise. I mean, we all do it.
well, we don't necessarily do it in municipal government, but Renee, you're absolutely right. We are looking for ways to increase revenue, and we're going to have to look at the public model to make that happen. We can't just be, you can't hold your hand out and hope it's going to come your way. It's going to come your way. But so you've got to sell it one way or the other. So I just bring it up as an option. I don't even know how the city feels about that because I'm going to be presenting it with my recycling brochure. I'd like to get some of the local businesses to buy a little ad on the back. It won't pay for the whole brochure. I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking for some sponsorship.
So when you find out from the city with the recycling brochure, will you let us know so that we know whether it's a possibility?
So what I will do right away tomorrow is I'll go talk to Jen and let her know when these come back out that we'd like to charge 50 cents for them, and if she wouldn't mind setting them on the front desk for us and collecting the 50 cents.
Perfect.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Item 3. We've already had that discussion, so we'll skip that.
Let's not do that again.
Item 4, discussion and possible approval to permanently mount sunrise sunset signs on aluminum posts.
Okay.
And I forgot to tell her, and bury the posts.
Okay.
Are they not going to be on the gates?
They are on the gates.
I know they are, but you want to move them from the gates?
No.
Oh,
We have
Got it.
additional ones
That's
that we
because
can
they're
do.
always down.
oh.
No pets allowed, and you know, I put those on the gate. And, oh, we didn't see that.
Safford has it all on one thing when you go in their entrance, all their rules.
So do we.
I'm going to totally
We
play
do.
devil's advocate here. If it's a public park, why can't people have their pets?
Because they
Is it because it's
they
a...
urinate on the
Disgracing-
headstones
it's
and they
disgracing-
go over. I know, I picked it up and washed headstones.
You know, so do deer. I mean,
That's right, and the rabbits.
They just have little droppings. You step in a pile down there.
I'm just
Renee,
asking 'cause I'm
I will
curious.
tell you that Lucci and I put the signs up because that was the city code,
Okay.
and we were enforcing the city code,
Okay.
and we had every right to do it. You have every right to turn that around if you want to do it differently. It's
oh no, I'm just curious.
It just happened to be what the code was. I think people looked, I think the problem, Renee, is that when you look back 5 or 10 years, there were no pickup bags, and people there weren't even any leash laws, and people would let their animals run loose in the cemetery, and then they'd poop everywhere, and nobody cleaned it up.
And they urinated on
And
the...
well, of course they will, right?
On the head.
And I think it was never a controlled environment. People do treat their pets a little bit different now, and I'm not saying that you have every right to come to the committee and go, look, I'm going to get the bags and the special cans, and
Well, no, I'm just wondering.
that was why, Renee, it's an old
Yeah.
rule, and
Okay.
we looked it up, and we were right about it, and the committee asked, and Lucci and I got behind it, and we said, look, that is the current rule. We made a lot of people unhappy when we did it, but we did it because they weren't necessarily being responsible, or...
No, they were
and
not.
most people were, and it's the one or two, especially in a cemetery, that make it really hard for all of us when you don't take care of your pets and let them run and do stuff. You're right, there's deer scat, there's rabbit
how about
scat, there's snake skins, there's stuff all over out
Oh,
there.
save me the snake skins.
I have to touch it. Freaks me out. But I'll let you know next
How
time I see
about
one.
the
Huh?
mounting in the ground
Yeah, okay, Richie.
on those sunset,
Fine.
sunrise sunsets, because those tires are not doing the job.
Okay,
Even though he pounded
State Center.
a stake down in it, it came up anyway. And I'm getting too darn old to pick up that great big rock and put it on there.
All right.
So even though they're posted at both gates, or all 3 gates, you
I
still
put
want
them in the
signs?
middle. I put them in the middle on 3rd Street and on 3rd Street on the other one, so that no matter what gate they come in, they do not see the sign. The only sign you can really see when you go in that cemetery is the utility gate, the bottom one. The other gates are open, and people look straight ahead when they come in, and they do not see it. So that's why we had those made. Okay. So does anybody have a motion to permanently mount sunrise, sunset signs on aluminum posts?
I motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, discussion of Day of the Dead.
Renee.
I spoke with Karen, she's getting married. She said she's just too busy, so she handed it over to somebody else who never got in touch with me. I had a death in the family, and I think it's too late in the game right now. So I think if we're gonna do it, we'll plan for next year. Hopefully Karen won't be getting married again. And her and I will be able to get together and figure this out.
But how about low school?
Speaking of Day of the Dead, how are we going to let those kids go and put their Mexican flowers on their relatives' graves with all that grass?
Just like always.
Just like always.
Is that grass?
We have
Oh,
the
well, the grass will be
by
cut by
October by the
then.
Day of the Dead. We've always had the grass cut for the Day of the Dead.
October?
End of October, first part of November.
That's when
I know when Day of the Dead is. Okay, as long as we have that done,
We have
because,
done every year that they put in a permit, we'd have the grass
Yeah,
cut. That's
okay.
why we asked for the permit, and that's why a permit's a good idea.
okay. I think everybody needs a permit when they do something. Okay. Discussion and possible approval on removal of waste material debris on northwest side of cemetery. The garbage dump up there, above C Street.
Yeah.
We need all that cement and rocks and boards and all the crud that's up there. It looks like a garbage dump up there, Andy.
It is a garbage dump. That's where people who go and illegally do work in the cemetery dump their garbage when they're done. It is the garbage dump.
That board up there was not put by some person that buried a person. It was it was a board that covered a grave that the city dug.
And the guys took it off and...
No, it's not. It's still there.
All right.
And that rubble can go down. You've got all that garbage down at the garages. Why can't you move that out of there? It looks horrible up there.
Well, when I have time, I'll move it. I'll be there in the first of the year to start working on it.
I'll believe that when I see it. So we will do that first of the year, so we won't vote on that. Okay, item 7, discussion and possible approval of streets between C and D.
Can someone explain why we need to remove the street between sections D and Z?
I don't think that's what I said. I think that I wanted discussion of removal of street between C and, there is no street between C and D.
It's
There is
just-
C and D.
And it's D you're wanting gone.
D is the one I want closed,
Why?
because
Have you been?
you go up there and look, it's by that car. If you go up to go to C, where my son's buried, you go up D and you get to this grave that comes out here. And there's ruts this deep besides. But there is a grave out there. I guess it was before the blades got bigger or the cars got bigger. But if anybody goes up there, they're going to get stuck, or if they grade it, they're going to take part of that grade wall. And it's not that far. They're just a small area apart.
Probably not a big reason to drive on that dirt road.
No,
No.
it's not a big area
That's in the
from
baby
C to D.
section.
Again, there's not a lot of activity.
And that's baby land up there.
It's-
Right, I know exactly
Yeah.
where it is.
Yeah.
So what,
So how do you close a
I was
road?
gonna say, it's the
You
easiest
just put
solution.
rocks on it, at the beginning and then
Cool.
put bolts
Yeah,
on it.
you just close it off.
Isn't it the one that has that big dugout type thing from the water?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where the palm trees always have the fall leaves?
Yeah, they're
fall
gone
down?
now, though. Yeah. Yeah, that's the original baby land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that opens up more spaces for people to be buried.
That's right.
No,
No, you can't?
no, not if the water's running out and draining there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't consider.
Oh.
And it goes
It's a
back to
natural
the...
drainway, so
Yeah.
that's probably why it was a road originally, Renee, because that
Got
was
it.
probably the natural, all that cemetery at one point had natural creeks, drains coming out of it.
Yeah.
Right, and that one still lives, so let's don't.
Not go there?
Let's don't do that, Renee, let's on that one.
Chicken.
I'm all thinking of revenue for the city here. I'm like
Yeah,
thinking
no,
business
thank you for
wise.
that, I appreciate it. No, listen, Lucci's made this comment many times over the years. We've been told for years we're out of room at the cemetery, and every room we have more room. So we have, the truth is, right now, people are doing cremations 10 to 1, and we've changed, I came to you guys to change the way we even do, that we bury those cremations, but we're not out of rooms.
17 years ago, when I first came on council, they told me they had 68 spaces left.
Right.
How many?
Probably another 3,000 have been put in, Lucci, and I'll bet I could
That's
squeeze in
right.
another 3 or 5 the way it goes right now, so.
Okay. So, what do you guys feel about, do I have a motion for the removal of,
The closing of...
closing
If
of
it's
D?
just putting rocks out and Andy can do that at the first of the year, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, and if somebody does go up there, they're gonna bottom out. They're gonna ruin their car, because they're that deep.
I make a motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passed.
Cindy and Renee, we're a team.
Okay. And member comments. I have a comment.
Let Todd go first. He's the only
You
one.
talk.
I'm the only boy,
Talk.
so wee lad, little boy.
What are you talking about? Andy!
Andy,
Yes,
Slapping my
why would it be
never
3
leave
months
that
till we
big.
can set the kiosk?
it may not be 3 months, but I don't want to give you a date and then not make it, so I'd rather give you a date that's pretty far out. and then
I'm like
not do it.
excited about this thing.
Me too.
I'm like chomping at the
Renee,
bit, and it's ready pretty much. Like it'll be ready, and from what Mike told me is they need to get it out of where it's at. So we need to get a pad formed, poured.
Mike just sent me the dimensions for the pad today at 3 o'clock.
So
It will not be done in the next 2 weeks. I've already scheduled out for the next 2 weeks.
I'm just
so-
hoping that it'd be sooner than 3 months.
Me too. I want you to know, I believe it probably will be. But if I say 3 months and I beat that, then I exceeded your expectation, and hopefully I'll get it before that.
40 that head in the threatening mask.
That dad pen.
Give him a little.
So a month, 1 month.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I have a comment on Peconick's grave. My son is buried here. There is a space here in Peconick's. And those cotton-picking yuccas have fallen down. 3 of them have fallen. They've hit the headstone, and all that garbage on the top of them is hanging in front of that headstone. Those things need to be taken out of there. And there is nobody that's young enough that lives in this town of that family that can move those things. I tried to move the damn things and just throw them off the headstone, and they must weigh a ton apiece. But there was 3 of them standing there behind Peconick's grave, and they all fell over. One fell and hit the other one, and they completely obliterated their names and everything. And I would like to see if they could even get a come-along and just drag them off of there. It would help. You know, just get them off the headstone.
Listen, there's a couple things on this agenda that you know, they just need to have work orders put in on, and we'll get to them. I mean, having the post done is really just a work order. You can bring it to the meeting. It isn't going to change anything, but a work order will get you done quicker than bringing it to the meeting. Having that stuff removed, the sooner a work order is called in, it gets in the process, the quicker it can get done. But if you're going to rely on me to do this and get it in my schedule, you're going to wait. So I suggest when there's a gardening thing that is not our responsibility, that you simply hand in a work order for it. That's
So,
what I
Sally,
suggest.
If the daughter of the Pecknicks called, maybe?
Well, if Lucci puts it in, but you have to, but telling me at a meeting isn't gonna get you much. If you
It
call
took
in the
me
work
3
order.
years with the work order to get a grave filled, Andy.
and you
But
got it
I will
filled,
go up and do
but-
one.
But it took 3 years, but you got it filled. So that's what I'm
is
saying
not
is
the
put in your
point
work
I'm
orders.
trying to make.
Put in your work orders, and then we will get to them as we can. Is that we have,
Do you know what would happen to the city if a child had stepped in that grave and that coffin went and it went down in there? Do you know what kind of a trauma that child would go through when he
Lucci, I'm
pulled
not
out-
here to discuss private graves. I'm here to discuss public right-of-way. Now, it's a public park, and I do not maintain graves, and that is one of the rules of the cemetery, and it's not a new rule. My first concern is going to be the fence in the road. My last concern will be the surface of those
You're
graves.
not
It's not
worried
my
about- You're
responsibility.
not worried about somebody falling through a
It
grave.
is not my responsibility to maintain graves.
My rear end.
Well, fine, but I'm not, it's not my, that's not my issue. It's yours.
Oh, it will be yours.
My turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm happy to be back aboard.
I'm happy to have you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
I'm happy you're aboard.
Staff comments?
Well, Renee,
Anybody? Did you have?
I don't want to start a fight, but it's not a perpetual care cemetery.
no.
That, it's not,
right.
that's exactly right.
I mean,
It is not my, listen, and I've said this over and over again, when I came to the city, I volunteered with Nancy Weaver to go cut the grass. Now, Councilman Dunn snuck in on the brochure that the Public Works is responsible for the cemetery, and he's not all wrong. But it's not perpetual care. We don't have the resources to do what you're asking for. To stand up here and be held accountable for something I don't have resources for is fairly unfair. And I'm sorry about that, but I will get to it. Put in the work orders.
That is a historic cemetery.
It's a historic town.
Not anymore.
It's historic.
Even the old people.
Yeah, right.
You're the most historic. Keeping the
85.
history going.
Oh, check with the attorney on that one too.
Who's 81? You're not 81.
Next week.
What?
Any more
81?
Are you serious?
Yeah, we celebrated our birthdays today, me and her.
Are you serious? You're not
He
joking?
turned
No, can you
80,
believe
and I
it?
turned
Did you hope we
79.
held up like
and
that
she
when we're
turned-
81?
Damn.
81?
Uh-huh. My mom lived to be over 100.
Well, I'm not talking about like the age factor. I'm talking about how you look.
How you look?
Thank you.
Yeah. Like,
Wait, can I ask a personal question? Sure. Did you have work done?
No,
And you lived here, you lived in Arizona?
been busy all my life.
And suntanned all the time.
Let me tell you, she was a bombshell. I know girls in this town who didn't know what it meant to be a woman until they saw Snooty walk down the hall in a skirt.
Thank you, and
You are welcome. I'm only
It
jealous that I wasn't here to
the girls
look.
that were looking, Andy.
we need to,
She graduated.
I gotta get.
Okay, all right. Fine. Do we have anything else to say? Does anybody have anything to say?
Snooty looks good for 81. I hope I look that good at 81.
Do we have a,
That's all I gotta say.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
81 and beautiful. Look at you.